as a filmmaker?
It was one of those scripts that, like, you couldn't put it down. And I flew through it. And as I was reading it, I kept sort of imagining different things and opportunities and just stuff that I thought that could exist that was sort of already kind of there, but just felt like there was more to be had. But it was just such a clean idea, It was just something so simple and felt like a modern Hitchcock movie, and kind of like a 90s thriller. It's just like a kind of movie that they don't make a lot of anymore, and they certainly don't put them in theaters enough anymore. And so, yeah, it was just a great opportunity to get to work with the writers and just keep pushing the whole thing forward.
I love it. Meghann, I'm going to come your way now and talk about the evolution of your character. When you first signed on to the movie, how did you picture Violet at that time? And then how does that compare to who she became as you dug into her on your own and also shared her with your scene partner?
Well, kind of to echo what you said, I mean, it was such a clear idea from the jump. So when I showed up, it wasn't, I kind of knew who she was just after reading it because it was so precise. And then, of course, it just kind of fell into place once Brandon got there and we found our little groove. But the whole process was actually just really kind of natural and easy and great.
Easy?
Well, yeah, it wasn't always easy, but I think it just always made sense what was happening, which is huge.
We're going to get to some of the tough stuff in a minute. I actually want to recycle that question quickly for you, Chris. What would you say is the biggest difference between that first draft of this screenplay and the finished film that everyone just saw?
In the first draft, the Henry character had nothing to do with the plot of the movie. He was completely sort of an island and disconnected. And it was a revenge movie, and it was Violet's, her dead husband's brother, who was exacting his revenge against her. News to us.
Yeah.
So that was a big difference. And the whole film was set in the restaurant and it ended in the restaurant as well. And what else was there? And then there's just, I think, a lot of Violet's past and her sort of experience and her past trauma wasn't quite the same. And then also, a lot of changes were made with Henry, and Brandon and I talked a lot about that and worked on that as well, because apart from bringing him into the plot more, we were just trying to figure out a way to give him more agency and a better sense of place in the movie so that he wasn't this like psychotic dish rag that stayed around for the worst date of all time. And part of that too, and I think Brandon should speak to this about sort of what he was discovering with Henry as well.
Can you walk us through some of those conversations, things so that the audience really believed why he would stay at that table?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to feel like a real guy, and have a life outside of the state and figure out what that life is and what motivates him and what he's missing in his life. Because ultimately for him, he is just a guy on a date with a girl that he really likes and hopefully sees a future with, and he's just trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And his connection with his job and how that ties into everything, and just really making him feel as human as possible.
We also talked about this idea that like it's not stated in the movie, but I think it's kind of there in the character's mind, which is that he has a sense that something is wrong. And it's almost like a spidey sense that's keeping him there. Like he almost feels like he needs to sort of watch out for her in some way or another. And he can't even put his finger on it. He just knows that it's not, this is a person he's been communicating with for months. And the behavior that she's exhibiting now at the table is atypical from what he's experiencing. So I felt like there was like a little spidey sense there.
You feel it while you're watching it. I'll sit with you for a moment longer, specifically to talk about the physicality of your character. Because you basically have to sell as a whole person who is, for the large majority of the movie, sitting in a chair. So, are there any, maybe physical nuances in a performance like that, so that you could still maybe express a lot, but without being able to move much?
How was your table acting?
I give it 5 stars.
I mean, not really something I thought about, to be honest with you. I wish I had. I mean, I don't know. You just a guy sitting at a table. I mean, between the prosthetics and the voice work, lost a lot of weight. I studied a lot of guys in restaurants. A lot of voyeurism, which I'm into. So yeah.
Makes all the sense in the world. You sat there and ate steak very believably. Now you're coming back your way now, because I love the fact that you've got 2 layers of this character that you have to play. You've got to play her essentially performing for the person who sent the drops, but you also have to make sure you're expressing her truth at the same time. So what was it like doing that balancing act?
Well, I always just have to give Chris credit because it was my first time doing a film like this, and so I didn't really have any expectations, and I certainly was surprised in some moments about, like, this was something we talked about earlier today, just this idea that sometimes what felt natural to me wasn't enough, and so Chris was pushing me like, no, it's actually tip the cup a little bit more to where it feels like it might be uncomfortable for you, but that's actually the spot where it lives. And he was always spot on with that, so I just felt really grateful that kind of throughout that whole process, he was so clear on like what the level was, and was so good at communicating that to us. And yeah, he was really like my guiding light.
I don't know how well you remember all of this, but can you give us a specific example where you were kind of exploring that and he challenged you to maybe push it further than you had expected?
Yeah. I mean, definitely there would be moments where he'd be like, I need you to be surprised. And I'm like, I am surprised. Does it not look like I'm surprised? He's like, no, you need to look surprised, which is like something, well, I guess it's kind of back to your question that I sort of facetiously answered, but yeah, I mean, because there's no behavior and there's no physicality, you really do have to rely on the nuances in your expression more than you would if you were physically moving through space and you being able to use your body to tell a moment. That's not something I was necessarily used to. So yeah, trusting Chris that was the move and it was cool to do. Was paramount, and sort of getting used to using that mechanism more to drive a plot point forward for the audience, because it really is just us just looking at each other and talking. Yeah.
I ask this question every once in a while just for fun, and bringing up the idea of acting surprise kind of leads into it, because I've heard some actors give that answer to this question. For the 2 of you, what is a seemingly simple, everyday thing that human beings do that is the most challenging to replicate believably as an actor?
Being really scared. Yeah, being scared, I think for me.
That's a good one.
Like being very full of fear.
Yeah. Because you don't get scared.
No, I do. I'm terrified of heights, terrified of snakes. But with nothing else. Crowds. Yeah, but it's a hard emotion to do. It
Yeah.
really is.
Well, because I think part of that is because it's such a vulnerable thing, and it's so, it happens without your consent, so you're not really witnessing yourself in that space. So it's kind of hard to know how you even act when you're actually that scared, because when it's happening to you, you're not aware of yourself, if that makes sense. So it's hard to replicate that. Do you know what I mean?
What about having to lift an empty suitcase and pretend like it's heavy?
It's not
Pet peeve of mine, yeah.
I always
Empty bag.
Yeah, empty coffee cup, every empty coffee cup in a shop. I'm like, there's no fucking coffee. Put some coffee in it, put something in it. Yeah.
I say like fake sneezing, fake driving, fake waking up.
Oh yeah, the waking up is hilarious. Yeah, I've had to do that a few
You're like,
times.
I'm so sleepy.
Yeah. Like waking up when you have a PTSD is something I've had to do for sure. Yeah, that's funny one to try.
You know that though.
Yeah. The night terrors got me down.
Veering back towards the movie specifically. I'm gonna make this a little awkward for you. So our last conversation, you were a little too humble about this fact, so I want to throw this question to the two of you because I was telling you the last time we spoke. I was surprised to go through your filmography and realize that this movie marks the very first time you are #1 on the call sheet of a feature film. I think it's very, very, very well deserved here. So, Brandon, Chris, what is something about her as a #1 on the call sheet that you appreciated and would be excited for more directors and more actors to experience when she leads more films in the future?
So it's a long answer. No, I mean she's brilliant. You know, you're gonna just have to deal with this. She's emotionally intelligent. She has so much empathy. She is magnetic. You can't take your eyes off her. She is kind and a generous actor, but a generous person. And it's just the truth though, but and that was my whole experience. I mean, every single day, and she's having to do what is to me seemingly the impossible, you know, the spinning plates of the role, where she is having to exist in this constant state of anxiety, but then also still play it like, I'm okay and I'm on a date. And there's a lot of layers to that kind of a performance, and there were just days where I was like, holy shit, how does she do this? And it's just pretty marvelous. And then, you know, you can
Keep going, keep going.
That's so nice, thank you.
Yeah, what can I say? No, really, Meg and I, as soon as we met, we hit it off, and she's a brilliant actress, obviously, but part of what makes her such a brilliant actress is she's a brilliant human being. Genuinely, she really is. She's incredibly kind and thoughtful and warm, and has no projection of who she thinks somebody wants. You know, it doesn't project who she wants to be. She just is, and she carried that energy on set every day, and was just the best scene partner and co-worker and friend a guy could ask for. Really, made my job incredibly easy and very, very enjoyable. And we just had such a great time doing it, and that wouldn't have been possible without her. So thanks, bud.
That means so much to me. I'm very embarrassed.
Answers. I'll let you give some flowers to now and toss this question to both of you as scene partners here. Can you each recall a time on this set when the other gave you just what you needed as a scene partner, where perhaps it helped you crush a tough scene, or maybe even find something in your character that you wouldn't have been able to without the other?
Honestly, I felt that way every day with Brandon because he was so present. And so I think, like, from the lens of Violet, to be seen by somebody across the table like that, which she obviously had been craving for so long, was like, definitely helped me kind of like, it made me super emotional at some times because he was just like so like there. And that was really special. And Chris is okay. No, Chris was, you know, every single shot and every single second was the reason that any of it even worked. He just knew exactly what was supposed to be happening and knew exactly how to tell me what it was. And there were so many shots and so many like graphics that weren't there. Like so much of the film, I'm actually just like pretending to see something that, you know, wasn't actually there at the time, but he was such a good leader through that whole thing, and I just couldn't have done it without either of you guys. Like truly, it was such a team effort day in and day out.
Beautiful thing. You guys work together exceptionally well. I'm gonna come to the visuals and all of that in a second, but before I do that, I did wanna make sure to hit a couple of members of your supporting ensemble, and before I even get to the two people I had jotted down, everyone here is pretty exceptional when you get to the end, and people popping up has the payoff it does. I think it really speaks to the quality of their work when they're only in the movie for so much. But first person I wanted to highlight here was Jeffrey Self, who plays Matt. From start to finish.
Truly.
Chris, can you tell us a little bit about picking him for that role, and maybe how much of this performance is like purely him?
So it's a really tricky part because, and I auditioned a lot of people, and everybody made, I think, a similar mistake, which was they played him in a way that was that just made him annoying, and he has to be lovably annoying, and that's something that Jeffrey did in his self-tape, where I just burst out laughing at the choices that he was making, and he was making a lot of very specific choices. And it just really shined because I thought, yes, this is, because it has to be, everybody's had that waiter, especially here. And you recognize him, but at the same time, you still want to, like, he's the comic relief of the movie. He's sort of the tool that I was using to kind of, it's like a release valve, because you cannot stay in this constant state of tension the whole time. You've got to give the audience a little bit of a break. He was always the break. And always showing up at the worst moment, and always fucking it up. But he's just lovable, and he just has a charm. And it's funny because when you meet him and you can see that it's like, he's not like that in real life, but he has the wit to be able to create that, and that's what's so cool about him.
Absolutely nails it. So the other person I had jotted down was Violet. Megan, I'll give you this question, Violet.
Right, it's
Violet.
confusing.
Violet plays Violet's sister. I was like,
She was on set. It was so fucked up. No one knew who we were talking about.
I can't believe I didn't say that. I hadn't thought about it. So with her, one of the things that impressed me the most is that within mere minutes of this movie starting, like, I fully got their vibe as sisters, and I felt like the weight of their history together, which I was so impressed by. What was the very first thing you saw her do, either in prep or on set, that signaled to you, like, you were going to be the perfect actor to play the sister to my character?
I don't remember if there was a particular moment, but I think what you said is so true. She has a really hard job because she doesn't have a lot of time to create that sisterly bond, to get you to care enough about her so that when she is in peril, you care. That's a tricky thing to do, and she just kind of did it right off the bat. She's, got an amazing energy, and she just killed every single part of the performance. So impressive, from like the stunts to working with Jacob, who played Violet's son, and she just kind of was not ever anybody that we needed to worry about. She just came in and knew what the job was and was like, cool, I got it.
Talented with bangs. That's what we were looking for.
Yeah. I'll build on that a little and start teetering into crafts, because you just brought up stunts there, and I know this is your first time doing a thriller and doing stunts like this, so here's how I'll get at it. In the end, what did you find most difficult, doing, I guess, like hand-to-hand combat with a knife, doing a high-speed chase, or getting sucked out of the window of a high-rise building? I'll rank them.
I think the window was probably the hardest bit. But it was all hard, and I wasn't good at any of it. Like, Chris had to teach me how to stab. He was like, you want to go to the monitor and see what you just did? And I was like, yeah, for sure, feeling great about it. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh no, not that. There's just a physicality to all that stuff that I hadn't experienced before. And one of the moments from earlier about, like, when he was like, it needs to be more, was when I was driving a car back at the end, and I was kind of just giving it like, I'm in traffic. And he was like, no, more. But yeah, I think hanging out the window is the hardest. Being in a harness is tricky. You don't have any control of your body, and you can't really breathe that good, but you're also trying to scream and, like, be in a state of panic. So that was tricky after like a number of hours. I had a little panic attack myself. They had to bring me back down to the ground.
Yeah, but you nailed it.
Let's see.
Alright, Emily, forefront of it all now, because I'm just like, I'm fascinated by the production design of your movie. Chris, did you always know that this movie had to have a restaurant build where it was essentially operating like a fully functioning restaurant? And if not, at what point did you realize that's what you needed to tell the story
No,
best?
I mean, the first time I read the script, I knew we were building the restaurant. The question was, how am I going to build a restaurant on a Blumhouse budget? That is the truth. Because I knew that it needed to have a certain scale. You know, that's like, it's a character in the movie. And it has to have a certain wow factor when you walk into it, which is the whole point of it. And so that was a huge challenge, just trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to pull this off?
Also, the plot is so specific to
The space.
the construction of the space.
Yeah. But our production designer, Susie Cullen, is a genius. And she created a space that was unbelievable. And once we filled it, and our department got everything in there, and then we filled it with extras, and I mean, it really was a fully functioning restaurant, by the way, that was also built a good 25 feet off the ground, because we had to build the set to also work for all the stunts that we were gonna have, and also because our stage was only so big, so like the set barely fit into the stage, and so we had to build this massive tunnel that ran underneath the set so that we could move gear from one side of the restaurant to the other. So like, it was a big undertaking, and you never saw the tunnel?
I saw it.
Oh. Wow.
Too busy flying around.
But also, like, it had to operate like a restaurant. So we had a chef who created a menu, who then made real food, then Brandon ate all of. Just a lot of moving parts. And the other thing that was really challenging about the restaurant aspect of it too was the hats off to the AD department, because they had to manage the continuity and sort of just create a whole chart where we knew exactly what table 2 was doing, and when they were getting their appetizers and their entrees, and when they were going to leave, and when another table would come and sit down at that place, and it happened constantly throughout the whole movie. So it was a big undertaking.
I have a couple of follow-ups. At the beginning of that answer, you emphasized what it was like basically pulling all of this off on a Blumhouse budget, and I'm like a very big fan of films that make the most of minimal resources, and I feel like there can be a lot to learn from that. So can you maybe isolate a certain something in this set that, people might think it threw tons of resources at, but it was just like smarts and ingenuity and coming together as a
I mean,
team?
it was all plywood and foam. To be honest, I mean, that's really what you're looking at, is all, and it was just, it's very cheaply constructed, but looks beautiful, and that's art. Like the craftsmen on the movie were incredible, and they did an amazing job. And so it's really just all about their ingenuity. I mean, it does help, again, like, it was a near single location movie. So we did have resources that we could actually throw at the set. And that was all we could do.
So impressive. Now, to build on that with the two of you, can you tell me maybe something you were able to accomplish because this set was so whole and so immersive? Something that, if the restaurant didn't operate like that on set, maybe you wouldn't have been able to do it the same way.
Continuity, for
Continuity,
sure.
yeah, continuity.
We shot the restaurant in sequential order.
Yeah, we shot
That's
this
a
one.
luxury that is, I think, pretty rare.
It's very rare. It's quite the luxury to have. I love that. Can you tell us a little bit about your work with the AD department? And maybe like tell us a little bit more about what that map looks like to make sure that all that continuity
I don't know. I didn't do that shit. My head exploded. No. I stayed away from it like the plague. I did, I handpicked every extra, and we created stories at every table so that we knew, like, this was a prom table, this was an anniversary, this was a second date, so we had all these, like, this was like a girls' night out. We created a bunch of stories at every table, and that was something I definitely had a hand in, but when it came time to figure out, like, the timing of everything happening, no.
I'll build on that a little. I'll throw this to all three of you, and admittedly, it's a little bit of an unfair question. I will just emphasize that every single person in those credits is of the utmost importance to making the finished film happen. For each of you, can you single out maybe an unsung hero of Drop? Someone who, we don't hear from very often, but their work was vital for the finished film, and maybe just teeing you up for success along the way.
Well,
You go.
Well, we had this really special producer, Ron, who very sadly suddenly passed away before the movie will be coming out. And he was a really integral part of the process for me. He was really, really special and went out of his way to make sure that everybody felt really good and cared for, and would send emails on the weekend to say like, hey, if you're new to Ireland, here are the best places to go take a walk, and the farmer's market is open, every weekend from this time to that time, and he just, was really special. So when I think back on the experience, he's somebody that definitely comes to mind, and it's so sad that he isn't here for all of this, but we think about him, and obviously the film's dedicated to him. I don't know if anybody saw it again, but that's Ron.
Beautiful answer. So we hit a couple parts of the production. Another thing that I really didn't want to miss was the costume design, because Violet's jumpsuit is it feels like it has the potential to become iconic. So I guess, Chris, for you, what was it like finding the right look with Gwen, your costume designer, and Meghann, when you first put that on? How did that wind up influencing how you carried yourself as a character?
I mean, I'm already dreading imagining Jason Blum in drag. Because he does it every time.
It's definitely gonna be his Halloween costume.
Definitely gonna be his Halloween costume. I mean, I think when I was working with Gwen, our costume designer, we knew that we needed the outfit to feel, I wanted it to be this pop in the room, and it needed to be sexy, but it needed to be functional. She needed to be able to do stunts in it. And she, we were looking at a lot of different kinds of, jumpsuits. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's a jumpsuit. Bad day. But it was really provocative, but still had a little restraint, and she looked incredible in it, and it was pretty cool. And then we made 30 of them or something.
Including one that fit Chris. And the day that we wrapped, after we did the final shot, as a surprise to me, he came out wearing the jumper. They had taken his measurements and custom made him one, and he was like, you know what, in solidarity, I want to put this on with you because you've been wearing this jumper for however many days in a row, and every time I had to go to the bathroom, I had to ask someone to unzip me. It was there was one zip in the back, and I had to turn around and be like, can you unzip me? So it was an incredible show of support from Chris on that last day, and he looked a lot better in it than I did.
You had that at a flash mob, right?
Yeah.
This was the best last day on
We
the
did a
first
really
day.
good last day.
Yeah.
Come on, it's Ireland,
It was a good day.
woo!
Yeah.
Do you all know about the flash mob? No? You want to tell the story, Chris?
Yeah, sure. It was our last day with our background, and we were with these people all the time. And one thing that was really amazing about this particular shoot is I've been in a lot of movies, or I've even worked. I got my start working in EPK and music videos, and Hollywood has a very bad habit of mistreating background, and just yelling at them like cattle. Get over there! Here's a bowl of popcorn and stand in the dark. And so these people came to work every day, and my biggest fear was that people wouldn't show up, because I would be like, they're gonna come here and they're gonna do this for a week, and they're gonna be like, I'm sitting at a fucking table all day, I'm bored, I'm not coming back. And they didn't. Every single person came back, and they came back with a smile. They were so kind and just amazing people. It was really fun to walk around during setups and things and talk to people and hang out and sit down at the table with different people and just get, I just wanted to know their stories. And so on the last day with them, we were setting up a shot, and I heard music playing, and I I turned around and I saw everybody dancing. I was like, oh, that's cute, they're getting their wiggles out, you know, it's everybody's sitting a lot. And then I looked again, and I realized they were all doing the exact same dance. And as a general rule, I loathe a flash mob. Like, if you do that at your wedding, I'll kill you. But in this context, it was amazing because it was such an expression of love and joy, and I really got overwhelmed. I like started crying because they were such cool people, and it was such a joy to work with them. So it was a really special moment.
I love that story. I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and then we're going to squeeze in a couple of audience questions. Talk about the lighting of this movie all day, but because we don't have that kind of time, I'm going to pose it to you this way, Chris. Can you tell us about your single favorite lighting cue in this movie?
There's 2. I love the, we called it Violet in the Void. And that was kind of a few elements that we had to do to pull that shot off. But I just love how it really helps you stay inside of her mind and her psyche, and you realize this sort of low point that she's at, and that she really does feel like someone has been dropped into an abyss. So that's one I really love, and I love the shot that we did with the Technocrane outside the restaurant, where we pull back and then the lights go down inside the restaurant, and we see all the reflections in the glass of the city. And I just thought that was a really, really beautiful shot.
The other thing I wanted to make sure to circle back to, because I forgot about it earlier, I wanted to talk a little bit about showing the text messages on screen, because I feel like that is one of the greatest challenges when you have a phone-heavy movie, is figuring out how to do that in a way that's both clear but feels organic for the viewer. So how did you settle on this particular design to accomplish that?
I mean, we knew that we were going to get rid of phones as quickly as we could, because that's boring, and nobody wants to stare at a phone, and you want to see an actor. You know, that's where the movie is. And so my DP and I, Mark Spicer, we, designed every shot that we knew we were going to have text in, so that we always left enough negative space to fit it. So there wasn't any guesswork in post, like, should we put it here? It was predetermined in pre-production. And so all of that was set up, and I think the only part that required any little sort of like R&D was in post in terms of what the actual text look like, and I had an idea in my head which is pretty close to what's there now, but also knowing that I wanted to have subtle animation. I just wanted them to feel alive, because what you're trying to do is just more than just like a text. You are trying to build a character that no one can see, and so it just had to have a certain kind of interest to it, and even a certain level of interaction. Like there's a moment when Henry walks through one of them and it distorts. I just wanted to keep this alive, because you are trying to have a conversation with an unseen person.
I love that element. I like when it lingers in the mirror reflection behind you. I thought that was such a nice touch too. All right, we've got time for, this is my least favorite part of my job. I'm gonna feel bad about everyone I don't pick. First in the white shirt right here.
Hi, I have a question for Meghann specifically. My name's Fisher. Hi. So you're going through this.
That's a great question, Fisher. I think one of the things that I've loved about Chris, and why I was so excited to work with him when this film came about, is because he's so good at that. That's kind of his jam. And I was such a fan of some of the things that he had done before, and I just thought, okay, if anybody can pull that tone off, it's this guy. And so, yeah, again, I have to give it to Chris. Like, he really just sort of like knew exactly how to switch between those moments in a way that ended up feeling like really seamless. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you for your question. All right. Right there on the end there, yeah.
Yeah, what's it like directing a little boy and taking a little boy through all that stuff in scenes?
I have kids. I have a son the same age as Jacob. So I feel like I kind of had a natural rapport with him. I also highly recommend bragging. I bought that kid a new toy every day that he got at the end of the shoot day. He was amazing. A big part was that, it's funny, we had to do some local casting in Dublin, because we couldn't afford to bring all the actors there from here, and so we we did kind of a two-pronged approach to it where we auditioned kids in LA, and a lot of them were very robotic. Like, you could tell they had like stage moms and the whole thing. And there was something so natural about Jacob. He was just like, his face with the glasses, like those are his glasses, and he's this cute kid with the bowl cut and the whole thing, and he just was very authentic. And I didn't know that he was like, I guess, a TikTok star or something. I didn't find out until after we had cast him, and I was like, oh god, that looks like I did it on purpose. But anyways, he was, you know, it was his first time acting. But I was willing to risk that and still find a kid that just felt like a real kid to me and was really sweet. And you know, it was worth it. But yeah, you just have to be patient and get them really comfortable with their environment. You know, he spent a lot of time with these guys, especially with Violet, the actress, because she was his scene partner for most of the movie, and so they went to like the park together and did stuff together. They did things with his mom. Just, it's all about comfort, and I actually think that's true for adult actors. You know, I think that you can get a lot out of an actor if they feel safe and they feel like they can. It just gives them more freedom, I think, to do stuff.
All right. Who do we want? All right.
Oh.
All right. You asked so politely. That's
I enjoyed the movie. Yesterday I was at an event called Stay in LA, and my question is, why did you choose to go to Ireland to film this? And what did you miss about being in LA filming it? And was the cost more effective by traveling over there and saving the money? And I mean, what did you miss about not being in LA other than the cost?
I miss my family.
Was it worth it?
Was it worth it? You know, it's everything is an opportunity cost. You know, and I haven't made a movie in the state of California in quite some time, and I think that's a tragedy. Because when I began my career, that's the only place I made movies in, and our business has changed, and there are decisions made by people way above my pay grade. But I'm hoping that we're going to bring the work back here, and I know that a lot of people are working very hard to try and figure that out. So yeah, I mean, that is my hope. I would like to be back here.
We're allowed to sit here and talk about your movie all day long. I'm going to say huge thanks to everyone out there for coming.
Thank you.